And welcome back everybody to the second half of the YouTube video if you're tuning in on YouTube. As always, we're just doing a casual leveling stream, continuing exactly where we just left off. Apologies for the missing part 2 of the video last night. That was due to a technical error where I didn't realise that the software wasn't recording until after I'd ended the stream, when the recording had just gone off and it only recorded 45 seconds. Beats me why. I'm assuming it was just a hiccup. Maybe I disconnected from the internet momentarily. Just checking now to make sure this has been recording. Oh, what's up, Carl? You alright? Thanks for tuning in. Let's have a look here. I'm just waiting to see if it make sure it passes the 45-second mark, because the second half of my YouTube video last night did not record after 45 seconds. Now we're good. Okay. Just because I want to have something to upload, because not everyone has time to check this out live. I appreciate people are busy and people have lives even when there's a new plague going on. Ah, you're painting some minis. What are we painting?
That snake! My loa cries out. Zul's heresy knows no limits.
Ah, orcs.
My blade.
Well, in keeping with the theme then, because this is one orky boy right here. I love it. The orcs are my favourite Warcraft race, so any orcs in any media I just find fascinating. Let's go, boys. I'll never forget when they did the third-person Warhammer game, Space Marine, on the Xbox 360. All of the orcs sounded exactly like Phil Mitchell. Any orcs are best orcs, absolutely, but all of the orcs in that game sounded like Phil Mitchell or just Cockney. I mean, which is great, but every time I ran past one in game, it was just Space Marine. Oi, Space Marine. It was like, do they have one guy voicing every single orc in that game? It was fantastic. Well, 40k medium, yeah, exactly. As I say, most of Warhammer's 40k iteration, they sound like that, but it's great. But I'm pretty sure during that game they had like one voice actor do all the orcs. Like every single orc had the exact same voice, just varying degrees of Cockney, and it was wonderful. It was great. I was like, imagine Phil Mitchell but radioactive. This is pretty much if I Football Hooligans, yeah, or radioactive Phil Mitchell, as I described it to my mate at the time who wanted the game. I'll tell you one thing I did like about that game, it was the multiplayer, which it didn't last very long, but I had a lot of fun in the multiplayer on that game. Mainly, it was a shooter, I know, but it was fun. It was good fun, especially me and my mates just like messing about on 1v1s. I always insisted on playing Chaos, though. I was not going to play. Oh yeah, multiplayer was golden. Yeah, it was, absolutely, 100%. I just wish that there was more games like that in the franchise. Like, but I just don't know if there's a market for it. But I think there is, personally. And I know there used to be MMOs within the Warhammer universe, but I think that it's time we got another one. I mean, yeah, you're not going to dethrone World of Warcraft. Go Devastator Camp, one spot, mow them down. Yeah, absolutely. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I absolutely loved that game. I sunk a lot of time into it, and I made so many different outfits. We do need a new Dawn of War, to be honest. Absolutely, I can back that. It's just my other half tagging me in Facebook things. Never mind, I thought it was... Yeah, Dawn of War. I just want... MMOs, I love MMOs, and I mean, Warcraft, I mean, they've obviously perfected the formula because it's the longest lasting at this point, where RuneScape, World of Warcraft, what they're doing works. People still play them every day. But I would like to see some more MMOs on the market that do something a little different. Like, do I want a new Star Wars MMO? I kind of do. I want a Warhammer MMO. I want a Star Wars MMO. I would love MMOs set in a few different universes. Now, this is a weird one for me, but I don't know how you'd exactly work it, because You'd have to work out classes, races, etc. But an MMO set in the Doctor Who universe, and I'd like a Time War one. I don't know how it would work. I'm just saying I want it. I don't know how it would be, but I want it. I absolutely love the MMO layout, and I just think we need to. The MMOs are something that people are afraid to make because it's like, well, what bothers me about the MMO genre is people are trying to compete with WoW constantly, and it's like, yeah, it's always going to be the big boy Warcraft, you know, it's always going to be that one. It's like, oh well, and my honest opinion is stop going after the WoW crowd. Go for a completely different audience with your MMO. Just go after something else, different fandom entirely, and you don't have to compete with something because there might not be any crossover, or there might be very little crossover. And the MMO format, I think, is a really good game format. I mean, open world, sandbox, crazy, you know, questing, and it's all about the progression of your character. Like, I mean, hell, I've always said, why isn't there a Game of Thrones? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's probably very similar to World of Warcraft and Lord of the Rings. But honestly, I would play a Game of Thrones MMO. Like, but make it very open. Make it very much that you can pick exactly. So you pick your house, and you can earn status. You can earn these things. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to roll a Jon Snow character. You have to build from basically nothing. I would love something like that because it'd be gritty, like it'd be fun, and it would be categorically different from World of Warcraft because you're not going to have a orc or a elf or a death knight. You're going to have pikemen. You're going to have a marksman. This is a big. To be fair, me or Chaos Marine, I'd probably go Chaos because, I mean, I just like the fact that you've got them named after demons, you know, and it's like, I would definitely be up for that, and it's just, again, MMOs, the problem with MMOs is people who make them, the companies that make them, feel like they have to compete with Warcraft. It's like, they don't if they're not going after that audience. Don't go after the same audience as World of Warcraft, and you can still create a successful MMO that people play. I think that it's high time that there was another MMO on the market, not because I'm bored of Warcraft, but I just think that a different setting would be nice. They could even do an MMO set in the Diablo universe, but that would be quite similar. Even MMOs set in, I want to say StarCraft, but then StarCraft universe or Warhammer, I'd probably say a Warhammer MMO would be sort of 40k MMO. Like, just do it. I mean, I know it's already been done, but do it again. Like, doesn't mean it was bad that it didn't succeed the first time. It just means it was the wrong time. Like, Warcraft's been out that long now that it's, yeah, make it better. Exactly. Just learn from your mistakes. Look at what other MMOs have done. Look at why they haven't been able to hold a candle to World of Warcraft. Look at why they're not as successful. Look at what WoW doesn't do good. I mean, for me, as much as I enjoy World of Warcraft, they are fixing it in Shadowlands. Is there's the character customization could do with an overhaul. And I'd like, as much as I enjoy the raiding content, I'd like bigger scale raids, which would be harder to organise, but it'd be fun. Like, make it optional content. I'm looking forward to Torghast because of the elements of the ever-changing WoW Shadowlands. But Torghast being the Tower of the Damned, it's ever-changing, and it's never going to be the same, so it's going to be very much dungeon crawling, but it's not going to be the same as it was the time before. So you can't just be like, oh, it's cookie cutter, let's just run Torghast again, you know the drill. Yeah, you'll learn the different enemy types, but it's not going to be the same experience, which means it has a lot more longevity and replay value than running the same content over and over again until you get the gear. Like, yeah, make the rewards similar so you can still target what you want. So say I'm running Torghast and I need a new shoulders tier set to complete an armor set, so I get a tier bonus. If they're doing tiers in Shadowland, I'm not entirely sure. But, you know, say I'm looking to upgrade my character's armor and I still need the shoulder pads. Make it so I can still get those, but, or a helmet or a trinket, whatever. You know, make it so I can still acquire it. However, doesn't have to be the same boss that drops it. Just, you know, if you want to evolve the content constantly, that's great. Just keep it so the rewards are clear, and the rewards change over time to be better, so to keep up with current raid content. So whenever the content gets updated, or new things are added to Torghast, or new things are added to patches, upgrade the gear that you get from this ever-changing environment. And I think that you're going to create a much more replayable, much more fun experience. And you're going to get that sense of community back that there's been times in WoW's sort of a history where the sense of community has been lost a little. Yeah, don't spoon feed the players, because I find that patronising. And one thing that WoW Classic did well was that you didn't get spoon fed. You had to go find your gear. I mean, I love the fact you've got this, you know, you can do... People said group finder was the problem. I disagree, because personally, in-game, it's hard for me to be... Sometimes I don't feel like being particularly social and asking in trade chat for a group. That takes too long. So instead, the group finder edition for me was fine, because all that meant was that I could assemble a group of randoms, sure, but, you know, for 5-man content, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And Raid Finder, yeah, sure. I always say Raid Finder is the... People say, oh, it ruined WoW. I don't think it did. I always say that's tourist mode for raiding. So it's not hard content. It just means that every player who has the item level and a max level character can see the content. Doesn't mean they're going to get the cutting edge achievements. Doesn't mean they're going to get the highest rewards. And it's reflected in the gear. And I don't think LFR is a bad addition, because it means that players feel more included in that endgame content, and there's less of an elitist barrier into that. But still, you don't have to spoon-feed players. Don't make the game so unbearably easy that I can wander in and max out my gear in like a week. I don't mind. If I have to grind for months to get the gear, then that's great, because at the end of those months I'm like, you know, I worked hard for this, and now look at how good my character is. For me, that's a lot more rewarding than being spoon-fed. Oh, by the way, here, have all this gear. It's like people saying that ruined the game for WoW. It's like, no, I'm not talking about guaranteed drops. The replay value being that you still need to go and farm something and get the loot. But also, if they're doing Torghast right, which I really hope they do, because I'm excited for Torghast, the way they've described it, the ever-changing environment, what that could mean is that, yes, you still have your gear drops that will be dropped based on current content tiers. It will be current content, it will be what you need, and it'll be relevant gear, but it doesn't have to be, oh, this boss drops this boss drops that. If it's ever-changing content, then it'll be, okay, so one of the bosses in here may drop this. The loot, just have a loot table, even if it's an ever-changing dungeon, which is what Torghast, like a raid content that's going to be ever-changing. Make it so that the loot table remains the same for the content, but you don't exactly know where it drops from, because then you can't... putting a boss on farm is great, but then if you want to evolve the content constantly and make it have higher replay values, and people come back every week to try, oh, they've released a new Torghast, you know, rotating the gear pool will be a lot better, yeah. So, for example, yeah, that's a great idea. So 1 week, say, okay, so I'm a pro protection warrior. I go into Torghast 1 week and I can pick up maybe a cloak, maybe some new greaves, maybe sabatons. And then the next week I can pick up a new shield and sword and maybe a new trinket on the loot table. Make it rotational so that I have to come back and play again. But don't make it stale. If it goes back onto the rotation that I've been doing already and I've already got a trinket and stuff, that's fine. Well, what they do is, you know how you can sometimes get an upgrade on the item? Just give it a slight upgrade. So if I have already got a trinket, you know, there's nothing to stop me if I rerun that content and it is on the loot table again for whatever reason. If I get a copy of it, make it slightly better, buff its stats just a little bit. Maybe make it a higher item level, just so I feel like if I do get some repeat gear, I haven't wasted my time. That said, don't spoon feed the player. You know, don't guarantee loot drops. Maybe do what they do with the mythic caches, where if you reach your mythic cache tier, you will get one piece of gear guaranteed a week. Where you have to run those caches and you have to meet the criteria, and it's based on how challenging the content you want it to be. I think that model works, but again, the important thing for the longevity of an MMO is not spoon feeding the player base, because then they're going to say it's too easy, and then what's going to happen is that easiness becomes the norm, and then beyond that norm, people are going to complain that the game's still too hard because they want to be spoon-fed more, because once they realise that they're just getting given stuff, they're going to want more stuff to be just given to them. Banter. Okay. But, you know, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Shadowlands, and people are already sort of resigned to, oh, it's not going to be any good. I disagree, because we don't know. Until it comes out, we don't know whether the content's going to be good. People, I mean, typically it's MMO Champion, they always scream and cry about everything, but, you know, they will cry because they don't know the answer, but they'll be like, oh, here's why this expansion's going to be bad, and I can prove it. It's like, okay, but you've not seen anything except for the expansion preview at BlizzCon. So you can't prove this expansion's going to be bad because you've not played it. We know it's in alpha, but it's I don't think people are being let in yet. I don't know. I'm not keeping up with it because I just want. To be fair, if I get into any of the alpha or beta testing because I did opt in, if I do get into it, I'm definitely going to give it a try. I think it's going to be that'd be worth streaming. But then, as I say, I think that people are quick to judge an expansion just based on what they've seen in a preview, and I don't agree with that. Let's see, so Surrender Gautan and Dark Weaver Jitan. Okay, so I've got to kill this guy and the other guy, so seems easy enough. This is when I get my ass handed to me.
I will crush your skull in my hands.
Oh, yeah. But I don't. The best thing to go into any expansion is just to not go into it with any expectations, because I believe that with Warcraft especially, because of how successful it's been and how long it's been running, it's very easy to expect too much or just to have a different idea. Because one thing I will give them is every expansion they're trying to iterate something a little different every patch even at times. And I think what's happening is that people set their expectations far too high because they have an idea of the perfect WoW expansion in their head. And if it doesn't meet that, then it sucks, according to them. And I don't think that's the right way to look at it.
I am out of range.
It's like, sure, there's things I don't like about Battle for Azeroth, but there's a lot of things I do like about this expansion. And I will say that the things I do enjoy actually outweigh the things I don't enjoy. I like War Mode. I like what they've done with the storytelling. I love the Sourfang stuff. I'm one of the people actually. Sure, Nathanos seems like a character self-insert for one of the devs who's a huge fan, but I think that what they've done with the character arcs and the way they're going, the ones that they have done right, have been really good. I just want them to do more with Tirana, but I think that's going to come with the inclusion of the Night Fae in Shadowlands, because of course there's the Night Warrior, which we don't know anything about. We know it's the avatar of Elun's vengeance. What does it mean? Like, what does that mean for the army of the Black Moon? Like, you know, things like that. What does it mean now that we've got Lightforge Forsaken, because Kalia Menethil was resurrected from the dead with the light? The light's not supposed to be able to raise undead, as far as we know. So the line between the what the light can do and what the undeath can do is getting blurred, and I like that, because you're not you're not tying yourself into. It means that it's a lot more grey. I hate to use morally grey because that was kind of the tagline for Sylvanas. She's not morally grey. She burnt down Teldrassil. That's not morally grey. That's genocide. But it's just. I think that it's going to be interesting because if they go with the angle that the light isn't exactly pure and gracious, and it's not entirely. It's just what people believe. So it's like the light shows you a vision, whereas the void shows you all paths. So it's interesting because neither is inherently right or wrong, and they're going with that angle, and I like that. Yeah, we're still recording. That's good. Just checking that my YouTube recorder failed last night. I really don't want that to happen. That was irritating. Just want to complete this bonus objective before I carry on with the quest. Anyone who is tuning in at any point, whether it's YouTube or on stream, thank you very much for tuning in. I do appreciate any viewership that I can get. We know times are crazy and people have, it's a weekend. People have time to kill, and this is probably the best way to do it. If you want to stick me on as background noise while you do something else, go ahead. I say this is not a high intensity stream in any way. This is literally just chilling out on stream. 119, so we're one away from cap. Great. So now, once we get to cap, there's still plenty of content we can do, and I will be doing.
Be you predator or prey? May your foes tremble in your presence. He will regret this heresy. Soon forward your summit. All proceeds as he predicted. The king hides behind Rezan's power. I will steal it back from him. I must get closer. I am out of range. You are weak without the Lord. Finish him.
I love what they've done with fleshing out Zandalar, because it's always been this interesting place in the lore, and they've done a good job of. I think they've done a really good job with Zandalar, and I think this is one of probably the better areas for questing that we've seen in a while. My favourite zones for questing in recent memory have been Stormheim, with all the Valkyrie stuff. It's really interesting. The way that they've done things with the Titans there. I've also really enjoyed Suramar. Suramar was good. Legion zones were interesting because I thought that I liked Argus, but I felt it was too short. And I didn't grind out the allied races because just too much. But I feel like Argus, people say Argus should have been its own expansion. I don't agree with that. I don't think we could have taken an entirely green expansion. Like, it would have just been Fell Planet. That's it. Like, Argus, you couldn't have done a whole expansion, or you could have, but people would have complained. Easily complained.
Welcome to Zuldazar.
Come, little king. Let us
then.
Yes, Rezan is teaching them to respect Eloa's might. Come and see. Such is the fate of those who defy the great king.
So we're just gonna watch this dinosaur wreck everyone. I'm fine with that.
She is an enthusiastic predator.
Really, I hadn't guessed. Oh god. That wasn't a great angle.
Have anything ancient to trade? Needs to be at least 2 centuries old.
Have you come to bargain? Nevrastakan, your enemies test your borders. Your council challenges your authority. Your friends try to take your life. There is blood in the waters now. It is time to ask yourself, are you king or are you prey?
I have grown soft. Many have tried to warn me. My own daughter among them. I did not listen. But I swear to you, and to this champion of the Horde, that I will not rest until I have Zul's head.
Is there any more quests here for me, or do I have to go back? Yeah, there's no questing in this zone.
It is good to be the king.
So I have to go back to the temple, because there's the other... Terrace of the Chosen, that's what I need to go do next. So we'll just fly back to the Great Seal, and then we'll go do the other part as well. Again, thank you for tuning in, if you're tuning in now. I do appreciate any viewership. Has my view distance changed? No. It was just the atmosphere effects. Very windy out there today. I keep hearing noises and I'm like, yeah, it's windy as hell. That's definitely to do with some sacrificing Azurite gear for Residuum. There's no point in doing any of that because we are just going to go straight into the N'Zoth content when I get to 120. Dungeons and N'Zoth content, because that's the fastest way to gear up currently, because there's no point getting legacy gear other than for transmog. I mean, I wouldn't mind some of the Coltira sets, because they're pretty cool. Let's have a look.
The lower bless your journey. And the lower listen. Lower keep you.
Gotta kill some traitors.
Target.
I do enjoy Stormbolt, it's a good CC. Especially for dungeon running, which we'll come into play later. Always a good stun to have. It's also just good if you don't want,
Too far away.
if you've used your pummel and they're still casting and you want to stop them.
I must get closer.
Ah, it's a rogue. Rogues do it from behind. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I'd use the notifications, but you know. Oh. Well, if that's what you're drinking, I mean, the only reason that I've got Monster is because I've been up since 5 AM. I have children, so 5 AM wake up time. I need this. This is yeah. I literally run on hatred, caffeine, and nicotine, and also just a little pinch of anxiety. It's like that gets me through the day.
Closer.
These guys just swarm you, and I like that because I like taking down a lot of mobs. Because again, this is a tank, so I'm not going to be doing a lot of single target tanking except for bosses. So this is actually good practice, especially for more complicated mobs when these guys are teleporting and got a caster involved. So most of the time during an instance, I would probably be crowd controlling the caster, depending on how damaging their spells are. And it depends on what the worst one is, if we can get any stuns going. So luckily, one thing I've noticed as a warrior, you've got a lot of utility in terms of that. So I've got my interrupts here at Pummel. You get Stormbolt as well, which is a ranged stun. And then you've also got Shockwave, so that's a constant stun in front of you, which is great. There's a lot of, like, I think that what I like about the warrior is it's a great toolbox for tanking. You have a great... I mean, this is only speaking from experience from what I've done so far, even though I've not really done much dungeoning content. I do very much enjoy the way that warriors play, because you have a lot more... I feel that the warrior is just a lot more free-flowing in terms of you aren't tied to a very specific playstyle. It's very I find the warriors much more situational. And, well, tanking in any aspect and healing is like you responding to a situation much more than doing damage, whereas you're there to provide a constant flow of damage to down the boss before end rage. But then with the way that warriors have been playing, I really enjoy how the dynamic of this class works. I feel like I've got a lot more tools at my disposal as a warrior. I did enjoy Blood Death Knight, but then I prefer the sword and board style gameplay. Although I love the lore with Blood Death Knight being kind of like vampires, like vampiric, it's about draining the life force out of your enemies. But then in terms of lore and playing, I like the Unholy Death Knight a lot more, which is what I do play, which is kind of like a melee necromancer. Which is great. But people want there to be a specific necromancer class in this game. I can see the appeal, but Unholy Death Knight kind of has necromancer covered. And the warlock, but then it'd just be a combination of the two, and it's not needed. It'd be good for flavor, I guess, but it's not necessary when we already have classes with sort of the dark magic abilities, classes with the necromantic abilities. I mean, I think people want the sort of caster style necromancer, which I totally get. But if anything, you could probably get away with it just adding a 4th range spec to the Death Knight for necromancer. But then wouldn't that? I feel there'd be too much overlap with Unholy unless you do something really different. Which is where your Death Knight itself can't deal any physical damage, and it has to summon minions, and it can only do damage with those minions. That's the only way I can see them being able to implement a necromancer that plays differently. Whereas you've got the Affliction Warlock where you cast curses and hexes. You've got the Unholy Death Knight which already summons a zombie, and if you get All Will Serve, like I play All Will Serve on my main on my main rotation, you already get a skeletal archer as well as a melee undead to go with you. And I think that a necromancer would be cool. Would I play one? I'd give it a go, definitely, but they'd have to make it so different from the other classes in the game, like Warlock, like Unholy Death Knight, that I don't know what you could really do with it to make it different. They'd have to really go back to the drawing board with what they'd potentially, to include that, they'd have to then alter the way Unholy plays. And I don't think that's a great idea either, because then people who like Unholy Death Knights to play the way they do, it's like myself, like, do I want to have to level another class just to get the same feeling? No, I don't. I think that it's unnecessary, but I believe it was with regards to that, it's a case of I'd be interested to see what they can do. Maybe, as I say, a 4th spec for Death Knight would be best for Necromancer, as long as they don't ruin what we already have. And people want to see, personally, in terms of additional classes, it's whether we need them. And I as much as I enjoy the idea of new classes, it's what would you add to the game to make it better. For me, I'd like a Bard. Personally, I'd have a Bard. A Bard would be fun. People say Tinker, I'm like, eh. It's okay, I guess, but class fantasy means it only really suits. Okay, so you want to know when I was talking about MMOs and potentially adding a Doctor Who MMO, that'd be cool, but the main quest line, well, depending on the time, pun intended, that you set it, so thinking about if they set it during the Time War, it'd have to be faction-based, and I don't know how you'd make it work. This is the problem. I think it'd be good if it's done right, but I'd say I don't have a proposal for how really. The main quest lines would be, of course, you take your stance. Basically, you can pick a side. You would. I think it'd be much more interesting from a role-play game point of view. So you can pick your allegiance. So of course, a Time Lord. Are you out for yourself? Are you serving under Rassilon? Are you allied with, I don't know, the Master? And then, of course, you've got the other races, so you could always have other classes be tied to things. So you could have Cybermen, you could have Daleks, but then, of course, it's how do you make that fair and balanced on the MMO playing field, and what does that serve? Because if we go down the lore aspect of the Time War is time-locked, then it serves an interesting theory that what you could then do is, well, the reason it's all happening during the Time War is that you can't get out. So your objective would be to end the Time War and escape. I mean, we know that people can get out. It'd have to be in the context of before someone managed to escape the Time War, I guess. But again, I'm not a game designer. It'd be difficult to do it. Obviously, you couldn't be like God tier Time Lord. Like you couldn't become like the Doctor or the Master. Like these would be faction, not even faction leaders, just people who you could ally with potentially. But then it's a case of, at that point, it's how many factions do you have? You know, how many factions have you got? How many? You know, what are the factions? What are the objectives? It's a great question, because I'm not sure, but I just think it'd be something interesting to see. Now, it would either fall flat on its ass or it'd be amazing. Unfortunately, you wouldn't know until you let it out into the wild how people engage with the content. Thoroughly, there's the thing is with the reason I said Doctor Who is that there's such a rich and expansive lore within Doctor Who that you've got a lot of scope. Well, it's exactly why a 40k RPG is hard to do. Yeah, precisely. You've got a lot. There's just a lot to unpack, and it's like, what? So who are your allies? What's the objective? What are you going to do that's different to other games? What are you going to do that makes this have unique appeal? And what you're going to do to make it so that people want to play the content and not feel like they've only got very generic things to do. So, oh, you can play as one of these guys and you have to do this. It's like tying people, because factions, which is why I understand MMOs. A lot of time factions are needed within an MMOs to give it structure and to give you someone to fight with and play against. But whether the factions make sense, it's like Warcraft, the factions make sense, but it's whether you should be able to pick a side depending on your race. To be fair, yeah, 40k made it freemium, you'd be an orc unless you paid in. Well, yeah. Makes sense. Let's have a look here. So we've got to rescue Gonk, and we've got to rescue Paku. There's a bonus objective here as well, disrupt the blood rituals, okay. I'd have fun with it, yeah. I just think that there's a lot. It's like games that I enjoyed that didn't go very far. So I liked the Elder Scrolls Online, but I must get closer. I felt like it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to take me away from the MMOs that I'm playing. So Warcraft, but you know, the point I'm making is it didn't feel like it was innovating enough. And playing it on a console, which I tried as well, I didn't like how that felt. But then ESO, I understand, because Elder Scrolls has a massive console following, it makes perfect sense. But also, I didn't enjoy it so much on console. Because that's, when I was working at Game, because I got a discount, obviously, for being a staff member, I picked up ESO for very cheap. Just the base game, to give it a go. It was like, I'm sure it cost me like £2 or something. I think I got it. But it was like, it was fun, but I played it maybe a handful of times and was like, I'm bored of this now. Like, what? Whereas with WoW, I can jump in at any point and not be bored. But one thing I do like about the structure of the ESO one is that the specs are a little more flexible. like all specs can do all things really, but sometimes that gets a little bit homogenous, I think, because it's like, what makes your spec special if all specs can do all the roles? So, for example, in WoW, it'd be weird if you could play a warrior that was a healer. Like, what would you be, a field medic? But then why would that be a warrior, not a priest, which you can, you know, or a paladin? But then I think that the priests are great because you've got shadow priests in WoW. However, I'd love a light-based damage as well, like a cleric. That'd be fun. As much as I enjoy playing Shadow Priest, I mean, I'm not a caster fan, but when I play Shadow Priest, it is good fun. I mean, you are dealing with old gods, insanity, and the void. It's kind of good. But it's... You know, it'd be cool if they added some flavour that you could play as a light-based damage priest, like a cleric. So, base it off what High Inquisitor Whitemane does in the Scarlet Temple, like the Scarlet Crusade, the Scarlet Temple, Scarlet Citadel, whatever you call it. It's been a long time. I know Whitemane herself's a Death Knight now, because she's on death, but, I died. Rip. No. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do, even within defined roles. But then don't homogenize it and make every spec able to do everything. Because that's not fun. Like, I want there to be diversity in the game in terms of, oh, you're this class, so you can do this, but you can't do this. And as much as I love damage dealing, it's like I don't enjoy healing. I've tried playing a healer, I've had a druid healer, I've tried a monk healer. It just doesn't appeal to me. I am much more interested in actually being in the fight than I am, say, standing away and making sure people don't die. Mainly because I'm afraid of how stupid people can be in this game. It's true. In any game. But then it's also like I have to be... As a healer, I'm idiot-proofing. I suppose tanking, you're still kind of idiot-proofing. But... Not so much. Your job is to make sure things attack you and not everybody else. Or... You're this class, you can do everything, but you're terrible at the skills you don't normally do. That's a good point. And it's whether or not you can level those skills, or whether the fact you can do everything, but it's predefined what your talents are in terms of you can't be... Like, for example, you couldn't take a berserker role and then be a master of healing, because that wouldn't make any sense. But you can do basic... basic heals, so... You can apply field, like, you know, I don't know, apply bandages, like basic field medic stuff. In the same way that you could be a priest or a cleric, and you're great at healing, and you can deal sort of moderate damage, but you couldn't tank very well. You could try, and you could probably hold aggro, but you wouldn't be the best in terms of how much damage you would actually take, because your specification is not intended for that, but you can still do it. That'd still be good, because you're giving people the option. In the same way that I think that, I always think that Enhancement Shaman in World of Warcraft would make an excellent tanking spec. I mean, yeah, it's a DPS spec, but why can't you tank as well? You're a melee class and you're a shaman, and you bind yourself to the strength of thunder and the earth. It would make perfect sense to be able to tank as an Enhancement Shaman. I wish you could. Even if you're not a great tank because you wear mail armor, it'd still be great. I'd still try it. That said, there's leather armor tanks. So you've got the Guardian Druid, you've got the Vengeance Demon Hunter, and I like Vengeance Demon Hunter because you basically, I suppose the lore behind why they can tank is that yeah, you can transform yourself into a demon who takes a lot of damage and you're kind of invulnerable and you're kind of leeching from the enemy. However, I like the lore being that demon hunters are so agile that they don't take most of the damage because they can dodge it. Like, that's a different feeling for a tank. You're not like a roadblock. You're not there to, you're not like, you can't kill me. It's more like you've got to place your active mitigation and dodge your primary stat should be, you know, the flavour of different tanks is interesting. So Blood Death Knight is not about blocking. It's about draining your enemy's life force to replenish your own. And that, for me, makes some of the tanking different. Yeah, the parry tank. Yeah, so in the same way that the monks in this game work. Although every time someone says parry, I just think of that guy who's dressed as one of the Knights Templar, like a proper crusader with a shotgun, says parry this, you fucking casual. That's how I feel playing a paladin on this game. And it's but it's good fun. Oh, you can get a new weapon here. So defeat Yasma and Volkan in the Garden of the Lower. Okay. So I'm guessing I have to go this way. But that's why I enjoyed playing the Protection Paladin as well, because you deal a decent amount of damage, and you are mainly parry, and when you parry, you deal holy damage sometimes, things like that. And then with Warrior, it's a lot more, for example, abilities I've got here. So, Shield Slam, bash the enemy with a shield. Ignore pain, ignores incoming damage. You can buff yourself to it to increase your health over time, or block out damage. So you're the block. The warrior is the block, the actual. So the warrior is much more of a shield. It's about not taking the damage. It's not about replenishing. It's about not taking the damage at all. The monks, they stagger the damage over time, so that they basically give the healers a better ride. And that's one thing I think WoW has done decently with tanking. Is people say it feels samey. I don't think it does, because each tank does play very differently. The Guardian Druid I've not played, but I've witnessed the way it plays, and that's a lot more about mitigation and buffing yourself to be able to take less damage. So that's a lot more about active mitigation. And they say the Demon Hunter's a lot more the dodge, the agility, of not being able to take the attacks, whereas with a monk, let's say you're staggering the damage, you take it, but you stagger the damage and you buff yourself. And I just like the way the warrior plays, because this is more of a warrior is basically looks at the damage and goes, "You what, mate?" And that's what I enjoy about the warrior.
For the true kingdom.
It's like the warrior's like, someone's like, "I'm gonna kill you," with the warrior, and the warrior's like, "You having a giggle, mate?" So if I hit ignore pain, you see this is where it says here, the percentage, yeah, ignoring 50% of incoming damage. Basically, yeah, that's basically how warriors work. Glowing eyes, you what, mate? You what, Manine? Tank. Then shield. Then you know, you just bust open their jaw with your shield, like surprise. But I like that. It's like the Fury Warrior is unashamedly just a berserker. You just get two massive weapons, and it's like you stare down a Fury Warrior, and it's like you're gonna die. That's the whole point. It's like if you get out of this with all of your limbs, you'll be lucky. It's kind of how the Fury Warrior plays. Whereas the Blood Death Knight is fun because you're just like, okay, that's fine. You can damage me. I don't even have a shield. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of your life force, and I'm going to use it against you, use bone shield, so it's kind of cool. So that's a lot more about your again, the Death Knight plays a lot on the active mitigation and self-healing, which is fun, but I much prefer, in terms of how I'm playing this now, how the warrior plays as a tank. This is a lot of fun, because you feel strong as a warrior. Like, you feel the weightiness of the class and the heavy hits. You feel like a proper tank. So I'm referring to like your typical sword and board warrior. You know, you feel like you're leading the charge and you can kick some serious ass, as opposed to I'm gonna dodge or I'm gonna drain life. It's like you're not relying on magic, you're relying on brute strength, which I quite like about the warrior. Let's have a look, because the Garden of the Lower, I think I've missed where these people are. I'm sure they're inside the temple down here, but I wasn't sure based on this curling road. I assumed that it was going to be up here. As I say, I don't think I've done this content really this far, because I did it on my Demon Hunter, and again I was kind of speeding through to level up to play with my friends here, and a lot of them don't play anymore, so yeah. So I want to play this game with a bunch more friends, and I want to stream it. I want to have some fun with this. So, oh crap! Yeah, don't stand in that. And it's much more interesting for me to. And I just think that it's much more interesting for me to play this game in the way that I do. Playing a warrior feels like a breath of fresh air in this game. It's basically every dungeon boss in this game. You've inconvenienced me slightly. Now you must die. Well, that's rude, lady. Oh crap! I need to move. So the lower of spiders is just getting completely doinked by this lady here. And I've got nothing to do except fight this big guy with a massive health pool who doesn't really hit hard if you don't stand in his, like, shockwave. I believe Yasma is a dungeon boss, so I know she survives this encounter. Whether this guy does, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
If I had the time, I would crush you for what you did to Vodka. Once I harness these new powers, you shall witness this empire's fall.
Hey, I'm not done with you. Get back. Okay. Yeah, she's definitely the dungeon. Yeah, the spider lady in the dungeon. I remember now. That's fine, because we'll be doing that dungeon probably later on this evening. So we'll get to see the conclusion of that.
I serve Gonk, master of shapes.
Speak with Bane Blood.
If you ever find the tracks of your
What
enemies,
brings you before the Lord of the Hunt?
So let's go speak to Bane Bloodhoof. Might as well half back because it's going to be a lot quicker than traversing the terrain. I suppose I could. No, Paku. I can't be bothered. So I'll just teleport back. Better repair my armor since I got my ass handed to me.
How you doing, man?
Okay.
Stay away from them.
What brings you to me? Earth Mother, guide us all. We are stronger together.
Yeah, we'll do that one. Just accept all of them. I don't think we'll be able to level through, because we'll hit max. I'm not doing Voldoon because I'm bored of Voldoon. Okay, so we're just under the 2-hour mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the stream here for now. I'll be back on later this evening with some beer and some more chill time. Thank you very much for watching if you've been tuning in, and be sure to either like or subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Instagram, whatever you want to do. My YouTube is StayWeird1993 Vlogs, where it's going to be this content plus other stuff. Twitch is going to be game streaming, and Instagram is just whatever. So thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. I'll be back this evening. I'm not sure what time, probably 9:30, maybe 10, I don't know. We'll just see how it plays out. Thanks for watching, everyone.